Hi, how you going? Hope you're doing well. Um, every month I sort of read a book and I do just a little bit of review of it and stuff like that, give people a sense of what I've been doing and what I'm reading. This month I read this book. Hopefully you can read it. It's really quite simple. Trust life, trust yourself, find peace. And it's by Katie Rose. It's a quite an interesting read. It's not very difficult to read, and it's sort of brought out in a slightly different way to anything else that I read. She's very into yoga and meditation and the using the Indian spiritual journey as a basis for her life, and I think she's sounds from the book. And hopefully that's what her life is like. It sounds really like she's found some peace for herself, and she's found some peace for her family, and she's found something that she really likes doing. I think she teaches yoga along with a lot of other things. She's got a website, and she sounds like she's really, starting to enjoy her life. For me, what got me interested in that book was just one part of that title, which was Trust Yourself. I think during a little bit of my time recently, I have lost a lot of trust in myself, and I didn't know what was missing or what was going on. Um, so I picked up that book. I had a flick through it. I thought it was interesting. It's a very easy read because she breaks it up into sections, chapters of sorts, I suppose. Yeah, they are. And I think there was about 14 of them. And they all sort of had a theme underlying them. Some of them were maybe not for me at that point in time. Some of them were a little bit more relevant at that point in time. But I did find the book very easy to read, and there were some really interesting things in there about trust and about just general life. I'm not going to say that it was a groundbreaking book, but I sort of feel like always, sometimes when you're reading books, there's sort of always something that resonates with you. I don't think I've ever had any book that hasn't offered me something or given me some sort of refocus on certain parts of my life or just on certain parts of what I'm doing. And that book really, although it talks about lots of other things and it talks about trusting life and trusting what's going on around you to bring you the life that you want. I have a similar sort of belief. I sort of think there is such thing as some sort of entity out there, some sort of, and I always think of that everybody's got a sort of a guardian angel that's looking after you. Other people would call that God, maybe some sort of, she calls it the source. There's other things that people might call that. But I sort of think there's also, things in there, things out there that we don't know, and that's sort of things that are guiding us. There's a lot of books around that sort of premise. This wasn't really quite about that, and it wasn't religious in any way as well, which I think was quite good. She was talking more about her belief and how it helped her. But there was quite a few things in there that was that resonated with me. Some was just about how we should be treating other people, and what we should be thinking about. Some of it was just around yourself, and that you sometimes need to. There are some parts of the journey that you need to go on, even though they might be crappy or they mightn't be the greatest thing. But hopefully, if you embrace those at the end, once you're through them, you'll learn some new skills, or you'll learn a little bit more about yourself. And I think that was a little bit about what I needed to sort of hear at this point in time. Obviously, with my redundancy and all of that sort of stuff, there was a little lack of trust. There was a lack of, that anything was going to go well for me again. And so, reading that book in terms of, that sometimes things are for a reason, even though you may not see what those reasons are, or you may not see what's driving them, you still need to sort of understand that things are going on. Now, and there was a few other things in there that were quite good as well for me, personally. It may not be a book for everybody, but I certainly enjoyed reading it. I read it in a slightly different way than I might read other books. I just spent a little bit of time every day reading one or two of the sections, because it was broken up into chapters, and then each chapter had 5 points in it. So every day I would read one or two of those points, and that was then related to an overarching theme and stuff like that. And that was quite good for me, because then I could read those things, which would maybe take 5 minutes, 10 minutes maximum, and I would allow them to ruminate and sort of travel around in my mind for the day. And that actually worked out for me as well. So it may not be a book for everybody, but I quite liked it. I found it quite interesting. I found it quite something that I was interested right at that point in time. And I found her a very honest writer. I think sometimes with those, when you're writing a self-help book, it can be very... sometimes it's very easy to sort of write in a style that you have all of the answers and you know everything and stuff like that, even if you've come from... but it wasn't like that. I'm not saying every self-help book is like that, she was talking a bit about her life. It didn't sound like it had gone probably the way she would have liked or expected, but she was taking it as lessons learnt and trying to do the best, and also sort of saying, okay, well, there are other people involved in these relationships or parts of my life, because a lot of times you're not doing it all by yourself. There might be a boss, a partner, kids, anybody else, other relationships, and you can only look after yourself in one sense. And she was taking that ownership, and I think that's also the part that I got out of that. It was about, in a lot of life, you can go about talking about blame, or whatever, and it's never about you. But sometimes you need to sort of change that around and sort of say, okay, well, who's got control of my life? Is it me, or is it somebody else? And I think that is something I got out of that book as well. So I think it's well worth a read. I think she's written it in a really nice way, very easy to read. If you're into yoga and meditation and a lot of that spiritual journey that comes from India, I think it's a fabulous read. I learned quite a lot of stuff around that aspect as well. So from that point of view, I think it's well worth it. So if you do end up reading it, I think you'll find something in there. So have a look at that one. So it's, trust life, trust yourself, find peace. Katie Rose, really good book. Certainly recommend it. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.